Good morning, everyone. Welcome back into North Dakota today. Well, January is National Hobby Month. Hobbies became popular again during the pandemic, but how did they become a thing in the first place? We have celebrity historian Raffi Andonian, and he is here to share more about it. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, going on TV is like a hobby for me, so I love this stuff.
Perfect. So can you fill us in? When did hobbies really begin?
Well, they start really, I would say, in the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, in that period where we all kind of know as the Industrial Revolution. Now, there was a term then, sometimes you hear it now also, riding a hobby horse. And that term kind of eventually evolves. And because the reason it's attached to the Industrial Revolution is because at that time, think about it, you have a lot of rise of labor movements. And when the labor movements come up, what do they try to do? They try to reduce the workday. We have an 8-hour workday. They try to reduce the work week to a 5-day work week, for example. So when you have less work from not working all the time, you have this sort of rise of more leisure time. Well, that meant that, for example, theaters and amusement parks and saloons start to fill up. Well, that attached this moral idea to it of, wait a minute, now we have this idle time and we need to be using it productively instead of using it for mischief potentially, this attachment to bad behavior. Think about it, we still think about, idleness leads to bad behavior, right? So that moralization helped kind of give this incentive to be productive with your leisure time. And then when you're productive, that meant that you're gonna develop a talent or gain knowledge or skills, put effort into something as opposed to just wasting that time away.
Very true. Why would you really say that hobbies became so popular?
Well, what happened is that in that process of changing in the way that we're talking about it, it became kind of like a personal resume. Right? So think about it. You go to a cocktail party, for example, and you want to talk about your wine collection. You're not just going to say, oh, what did you do today? I was just sitting around, I don't know, watching 10 movies all day, Okay, well, that's not as exciting, right? Or how about the workout warrior on social media, posting all the time, saying, hey, look how productive I'm being. I'm putting myself towards something. It's not going to sound the same when you say, yeah, I was just talking on the phone all day with a bunch of friends. Doesn't make any sense, right? So we attach this sort of meaning to it, this meaningfulness that happens. So when it became a personal resume, I think is how it became more popular. But that also changed the sort of concept of it. So it went from an activity that you're doing to sort of de-stress to one that now becomes one of competition, one of comparison. Think about if running is your hobby. Well, now, let's say you're joining marathons or you're joining 10Ks or races. Now you're going to compare yourself to others, see where you finish. Now it's a sense of achievement. You might post about it and look for validation. So the hobby becomes popular as it gets this validation and this social resume kind of attachment to it. Now, the reason I would say that happens is because we live in a capitalist society, and in capitalism, the values that underlie are to be productive, are to have progress, are to have, put an effort into something, or to not be idle, to kind of always be producing something, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would connect all of this to the period in World War II. Because in World War II, this stuff comes together because you have some joblessness that's coming out of the Depression and stress because of the war, because you got friends and family in the military. And there's actually, the Journal of American Psychiatry has a doctor in there that writes about how we need to be, that hobbies are important because of de-stressing, but they need to be intelligent and constructive. That's a term that it used. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of think a period of having job problems and having some extra time and stress to me was a pandemic. And in the pandemic, I don't know, man. I was on TikTok, and the song dun, 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 dun. That was a lot of people were attached to. Of course, Jason Derulo later did a song based on that hook. Savage Love. So these are the times that hobbies come up. It might be TikTok, but it might be something more productive like home improvement or baking that a lot of people picked up in the pandemic. But what made it popular is a capitalist belief that we have in having it as a personal resume for socially sharing, whether it's at a cocktail party or on social media.
Well, who knew? My goodness. So what would you really say that someone's hobby says about them?
Well, I love that question because it really depends on sort of how you identify, right? So let me look at some of this stuff. So I got some in front of me. How about this right here? American history playing cards. You get American history trivia. What does that say about me? You think I like history? Yes. How about this right here? A jigsaw puzzle. right? A lot of people have a puzzle that they love to do. How about chess? I'm sure you know some chess players. I know we have many chess clubs and chess societies. A lot of people love Uno. What do you think of when you think about Uno? And what kind of person they are? Someone that's fun, right? Someone that's social. But most importantly, what I would say is there is this community that it comes around it, right? So what it says about someone is often the community they identify with. In the 1930s, during the Depression, when you had a lot of hobbies because of the reasons we mentioned, job loss and so on, you had this rise of newspaper columns that were dedicated to particular hobbies, radio stations that were dedicated to particular hobbies. How about today? We have cable TV stations that are dedicated to particular hobbies, whether it's ESPN or the Food Network or some other thing. And then, of course, we also have online communities today that are dedicated to particular hobbies. And in the community, you can have a forum and an exchange. Now you're identifying sort of with a sub-society, right? So there's that, what you're seeing the image there, the hobby horse. There's a great example. We were talking about it earlier. There's versions of the hobby horse. So whatever your hobby horse is today, you're often identifying with the community with it today. And I think that's what it reveals about someone. And most importantly to me, as we talked about earlier, when you're sharing it out there, it really becomes this sort of social capital to be able to, it's the story you tell others, but also the story you tell yourself about who you are. And that's why I think the hobbies are so connected to what it says about someone, because it's not just what it says about someone to someone else, but it's what it says about myself to myself because of what I'm putting out there. So that's what a hobby is going to do for anyone.
Well, I love that. Well, my favorite hobby is scrapbooking. I'm curious though, what's your favorite hobby?
I don't know if you count history as a hobby, right? It depends. But I would say one of my favorite hobbies is doing pickup sports. I like to play pickup sports, like just for fun, going out playing basketball or playing soccer. Another hobby I have is music. I play violin, I go to operas, I like to go to theater. These are the kinds of hobbies that I entertain myself with. And of course, travel and food, which is why I have the champagne bottle right next to me.
Well, there we go. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And how can folks at home find more information?
You can go to celebrityhistorian.com for information on me. I have all kinds of different content on there. Courses I teach that are open to the public, tours I lead, and different things. So it's celebrityhistorian.com, and a lot of content on a whole variety of different topics. So maybe if your hobby is to do history, or your hobby is to enjoy just cultural stories around the country, then that's what you can check out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to our very own celebrity historian. We love having you on.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, stick around. We have much more North Dakota Today yet to come after the break.